I'm just so happy to be sitting with you, Dr. Sasha Vukeja, medical oncologist. And do you not head up the breast cancer unit there at Tyler?
Yes, I do. I'm with Tyler Oncology, Tyler Cancer Center with US Oncology. So I kind of run the breast section there.
And I've known you for years. But I recently really learned about you in the most in-depth and intimate way to understand your life journey, because you took pen to paper or keypad to computer, and you wrote this amazing book, Seeds, a story of unexpected potential in unlikely places. It's your memoir. That's a remarkable story.
Thank you.
So we're going to spend some time, we're going to talk about it.
Okay.
But when I read it, something you said, and of course, here it is. I wrote this book in part to give my patients a better understanding of myself and why I do what I do. But I've been tempted, as we all are, to lose sight of who I am along the way. And I thought, gee, it's so telling. But you connected the dots for me. I actually find that the most rewarding is picking up the patients who are down, even though it is work and takes a lot of energy from me. And then, of course, your mother is tied into this. But the book is so filled with metaphors.
Yeah.
And maybe you can talk a little bit about your own personal story and how that ties into being a medical oncologist, because I think all of your life lessons, you battled a malignancy of life from the time you were a little girl.
Well, that's very interesting what you said, because, you know, it's not a book really about me. It is the book about survivorship. It's a book about the human spirit. It's a book about the adversity that life brings, and that there's some people who get drowned by it and others thrive to it. It's the connection with others and finding that we have so much more in common, that we are different on the surface. And so, even though it's a memoir, I think it's more about the survivorship. And, you know, we think about survivors as the people who survived cancer. You know, in the 70s, in the 60s, we talked about cancer victims, and then we changed the terminology to cancer survivors. But, you know, they're survivors of all kinds. You know, you can survive a death of a child, a bad marriage, a diagnosis of bad surgery, car accident, fire, you know, stock market. So it's not so much a cancer per se, but it's never giving up.
Well,
it's that drive.
When I talked about, you know, metaphor, to me, cancer is a metaphor for all the types of malignancies that we have to fight in life.
Exactly.
Okay, for me it was a solid tumor.
That's right.
For you, and the courage of your mother, and dealing with a communist country, and not really knowing day by day. And then, of course, the message of believing in others, maintaining hope, trusting strangers.
And allowing other people to help you. See, I see that in my clinic. It's very hard for women to allow other people to help them. They're the givers, they are the caretakers. And, you know, sometimes they don't even make on the list of who is important. It's the children, the house, the husband, the dogs, the car payments. And, you know, when we turn to the next page, they may not even make it to the next page. And suddenly now they are, and I say, you know, it's so important for you to accept help. Because I wouldn't be here if I didn't accept help from people to help me. And so that trying to switch that around, I say, you're so important to them that you have to let them help you now to survive, to get through this. You know, because at the end of the day, you know, when you get into this predicament of something seriously happening to you, things can kind of get rearranged and you get refocused. And at the end of the day, when the game of life is over, it's like a monopoly. You know, you can acquire all the all the wealth, all the hotels and all the things, the new monopoly you can have, LAX and all this things, all the things that you can acquire, it all goes in a box. It doesn't have importance, and I think that survivorship and that focusing puts things in perspective.
The courage that it took for you to get to America, from Yugoslavia.
That's right.
I don't know how many people would have been able to have really survived and thrived, and the whole time reading, I said, well, now I get it. It's perfectly aligned with your life work.
And I think part of that reason is what forced me to fight for them. You know, I'm a part of team members. We are on the same team. It's just like my mother was fighting for me. You know, it's really very important to get them through. You know, a lot of them is just bump in the road. You know, and the art, all the other things that tie into it, and trying to live and not exist, and try not to lose the identity. You know, patient become just nobody when they become a cancer patient. You know, I'm a breast cancer patient. No, you're a teacher with breast cancer patient. You are a nurse with lung cancer patient. You don't lose that. You gain the extra, the discovery, not the recovery. You know, all of these little messages that I think patient sees life in a very different way. If we, you know, when you're driving here to California, you don't see the whole road. You see 300 feet ahead of you, the lights, the shade. And so I am there shining light for them for those 300 feet of road ahead of them. And I tell them, you know, now put a little high beam, you'll see the next 300 feet to get them to the destination. I don't think I can remember once I was unable to get them to the other side. And I tell them, this is the bump in the road for a lot of the patients.
But that's also important when and you talked about that in the book as well, to some degree, maybe in different words, but the difference between hope or healing, and curing.
Yes.
And your life has all been about healing.
Yes.
Healing is far more important
Yes.
than curing.
Cure is a 4-letter word. It means nothing to me. There's a lot of dead cure people.
Exactly.
And patients hang on the statistics. We are so geared on numbers. You know, what's my chances? Well, so if you die, it's 0. If you survive, it's 100. You know, there is now no one, you know, with that particular stage, with all the other variables in the body that I can compare you to. And there's not one cancer in the world that someone has not been cured from. So, you know, I'm giving them guidelines. I don't give them numbers. Mm-hmm. People get hanged up on numbers. I say, you are who you are. You're very unique with your disease, with your stage, with all the other factors. And so, you know, when we prescribe chemotherapy, it's based on your height and your weight. Why some people have more toxicity than others? Because there's all these other variables that we do not account. So I use that in the same way, and I say, so that makes you who you are. And because of that, we have to think that you're not going to be just a number. Because once they get a statistic, you know, people, you know, there's 3 kind of patients when they come to my clinic. I can tell you right at diagnosis. There's the ones that they think it's a wrong diagnosis. It's someone else's X-ray. It's someone else's biopsy. I want to be rebiopsy. They run around getting 360 opinions. Mm-hmm. And eventually they don't come back because they died somewhere getting a second opinion. Then there's the second group. That's the tough one. Dad is sitting there, or the mom is sitting there. Someone else is answering a question for them. I says, excuse me, is there something wrong that you can't talk? Well, mom is tired. I said, what is she tired from? Should she take a leave of absence for a year? We haven't done a thing to them yet. They're already buried. They're taking over, people are taking over their life. They stop living. They are arrested.
Tell us the story of the artist, and you looked through her chart. She had stopped and you said something about,
Yeah, you're an artist. Yeah, the artist, yeah.
Well,
let me tell you the third group. The third group of patients, the one who come in with long pad, you know, the legal pad with all the questions, got on the internet, they have questions, they've talked to people who had cancers, and they quiz you, you feel like you're sweating, you're done, you answer all the questions. They said, when do we start? We're on the same team. And then I'm trying to dig out the second group. The third one that went wander away for another opinion, they don't come back. So I had a patient who was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she, you know, they all know that a chemotherapy room is now called Chemo Gallery. I've redecorated my mom's painting because I feel, you know, it should be a pleasant place for people to get treatment. Since it's a bump in the road for a lot of this patient. And she said, I was an artist, and then I got breast cancer. And I said, well, what happened? Well, she had mastectomy, so I said, were you painting with your breast? And she looked at me like, my life is in this woman's hand. You know, she's just out there. And I said, you know, because I read the article about this man taking an elephant's tail and put it in a painting and slashing on a canvas, and they call it the zoo collection. I said, were you painting with your nipple? Were you making polka dots? No, you can just see what this woman, this is a new patient. She said, well, no. I said, oh, I know. Maybe they damage your nerves. Maybe you can, are you right-handed? This was the right side of breast surgery. She said, yes. I said, well, you know, maybe they damage your nerves. Can you use your hands? She said, yes. As I'm writing my note, trying to get this all synced together, I said, well, then I don't get it. She said, I got it. I said, why don't you bring some of your art? Let me look at it. I said, you are still who you are, except now you have another experience in your life. So that's the first time I had to take some of my mom's paintings. Since then, we have 11 other artists that we have to keep taking the paintings of to create space for other artists. And that was the attempt of the chemos, besides being a pleasant place to be, is you are who you are. If you're an engineer last week, you're an engineer still this week with lung cancer, or teacher, or an artist.
Well, your disease doesn't define you.
Yes, but the people define themselves as being this new identity, and they live to it. That's what they are. They're walking, talking breast cancer patient. No, you're Mrs. Smith, who is a teacher, who now has this other connection, and that's the discovery, not the recovery. I'm going to get through this, and I'm just going to believe like nothing happens. No, the ultimate healing is when you incorporate this in your life, and it's part of who you are. It's part of your life. You know, their patient, there was a woman of a doctor, a wife of a doctor, and she said, you know, I hate waiting for you. You know, I don't have nothing in common with those people in the waiting room. I said, you know, it's interesting, you have more in common with those people than a lot of your friends. And I said, you can look at it in several ways. You can say, this is a journey I'm going to get through, and I will get to the other side. I'm going to pretend that nothing ever happened to me. Or you can say, you know, just think, I'm surrounded by people and circumstances that I have never experienced before. You know, people discover their strength, their relationship with their family, they find what's really important in life. And so you can ignore all of that. And it's funny, one day I was really, really late. I went outside and apologized 3 times, and she was sitting next to this woman and bonded with her, this woman who's not educated. And it was a transforming experience for her. And now she volunteers and makes cookies and comes around, and she's hanging out, she's always there. You know, and it's that connection that we have so much more in common. Those are the seeds, you know, the seeds that have planted in our lives that, you know, some take deep roots, some don't even grow, some become just a weed. But that's the seeds that I see coming out from being planted many years prior to that. You know, it's like your own diagnosis. That was a seed for your life. Just think how much good you have done. Right? That was the beginning, taking deep roots. You have spread the seeds. You have reached so many young women, which was a void for those young women. We were grouping them all together, and there was a specific needs for that group of people that was not met. So all of this, and that's why I love the seeds, the title, because it's so. And everything starts with something. You know, when you buy seeds, what do you buy? You don't buy the dry little small things. You buy the potential. You see the picture, you say, I want that tree in my yard. I want that tomatoes in my yard, in my garden. You don't buy what's in it. And half the seeds don't even come out. But you buy the potential. And so every seed has a potential. It's like children, and that's where the proceeds of the book go for adoption. Children are like seeds. If you give them the right environment, the right temperature, the love, the attention, the nurturing, they will grow to some potential, or whatever their potential is.